Welcome to Two Humans Talking, the podcast that discusses the challenges of staying healthy, present, and fulfilled in this modern, fast-paced world. I'm Tiffany Sims, your Disney loving nutritionist and high-performance coach. I love talking about food, exercise, and getting the most out of life.
And I'm Chelsea Scroggins, your yoga teacher and life coach. And I enjoy talking, period, but I really enjoy talking about all things that enhance the life.
Whoop, whoop. Welcome to
I'm so excited to be here.
So, I'm feeling it today, Chelsea. I'm feeling it.
Yeah, you're looking so vibrant, I must say. Oh, you look great, Tiff.
Thanks. If you're listening to the podcast right now and you want to be a part of it visually, you can head over to YouTube, Two Humans Talking, and you can watch the podcast live if you'd rather do that. So, Chelsea, what are we talking about today?
Well, someone brought up to me time management, and I think we should talk about time management and how we get everything done, even in like a chaotic world or like a week where you're off your axis because life is just coming at you so fast and things are happening and out of your control. And how do you control your own life and what you got to do and your goals? And I think that would be a great topic to talk about.
I love it. And I think it's so relevant. And I think it's always relevant, always a relevant topic, because every single person has the same 24-hour period. And so it's like, how are some of the most successful people getting so much done when like I'm barely keeping my nose above water? So I think that this is such a good topic to talk about. I would just start by saying, one, recognizing what season you're in.
Yeah, that's real. That is so real. And honoring the season all the way through and not beating yourself up if you're in a different season than what you think you need to be in. Mm-hmm. And just honoring the flow of life sometimes is so important, as well as, managing the time that you do have and making time for your goals. Yeah. And just speaking of that, what season would you say you're in right now?
A different season than I've ever been in before. I'm in so I spent 12 and a half years in a very high stress, high demand, male dominant, very aggressive workplace, very high profile. The stakes were high. I worked in nuclear power. Like it just comes with a different energy. And in that season, it was very common for me to be working 12, 14-hour days.
Wow.
And that's not even during like refueling. So nuclear power, every so many months, the unit has to get more gas, basically. And so it's all hands on deck. And those are 13 hours a day for like 30, 40 days straight. Very little downtime. And so I went from that, which came with its own set of learning how to manage my time, to exiting that world and starting my own business and relearning how to use time in this new world that I'm in. And so my pendulum swung from one side all the way over to the other. And so now, after being in business for a year and a half, I feel like I'm somewhere in the middle of time is my own, in that meaning that I have a lot more autonomy over what the calendar says, but my time's also in high demand. And so there's a lot of things happening and a lot of things that I am responsible for. And so I still have to learn how to manage my calendar and manage myself and my emotions and make sure I know what's important to me. And so I guess right now the season of life is just like year and a half business owner while still being a girlfriend and a sister and a friend and a daughter, just like everybody else.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, I feel like my seasons are not like very long-winded. I feel like it's like week by week for me. And I feel like the last 2 weeks, it's been kind of like I'm on a roll and I know what I need to get done, but I'm almost at like a halt to where it's like I think I need to just chill and allow the creativity come to me and stop trying to force it or think that it should have happened this way, you know? So I feel like for 2 weeks, I've just been kind of a whirlwind. So very hectic kind of winter storm, shall we say? But I feel like I'm about to evolve into spring, which ironically it's spring now, and just really blossom. So I feel like I'm in a blossoming type of season or about to be, and I just have to hold on a little bit longer um, until I blossom.
But when you
That's what I
say
feel like.
hold on, though, when you say hold on, are you go like whatever life throws at you, you're just taking the beating? Or when you're saying hold on, you're intentional about your non-negotiables, and then how things are panning out with the things that pop up during the day, you're just going with the flow and not letting them get you
Yes.
all worked up.
That
When
yes,
you
so that's what I mean. That means like I have certain goals and certain non-negotiables every single day, but I haven't hit exact time or exact day that I thought that those goals were going to be done. And because life has kind of come at me a little bit, and I just feel like if I just hold on and continue to stay focused that this is going to happen, it will happen one step at a time. Yes, that's what I wanted to talk about today too, just one step at a time, because I feel like a lot of the times, me especially, I'll think 10 steps forward and then I start stumbling because you're going too fast. And it's just like if I slow down, I do one thing at a time, I start to get more things done. And my time management is a lot better and more clearer, instead of feeling like, oh my gosh, I have to do this. And instead, I'm like, let's just focus on this. And then next, we'll do this, just kind of slowing down the pace a little bit. And so that's what I mean by like slowing down and holding on to the wind that is shifting my life right now, because eventually I will be selling and I'm not getting off the roller coaster. And right now I'm like on and up and about to just go down, I feel.
So I made a choice. Oh, that was a nice choice of words, but that's true. I made a choice 8 years ago now
You
that
said 8 years ago?
eight,
Oh,
probably
wow.
8 now, that I was going to be in charge of
I
my day.
love that.
And I want to go through, if it's okay with you, I would
Yeah.
like to share a little bit about where my mindset was and all the demands I have, because I know that someone listening to this is going to go, that sounds great, Tiff, but I don't get to control my time. I have a job, good for you. And so, like, is it okay if I go back there for a minute?
Please,
Okay.
please.
So I mentioned that I worked in nuclear power. My schedule was not my own. I showed up to work when I was told. I left whenever I was allowed to leave. It wasn't up to me what
Dang.
time my day ended. And when you're in that, it's very easy to sit there and think about like the things that you want and the things that are important to you, and getting so frustrated that your employer isn't giving you anything, right? Like
That's true.
feeling like you're not in control, that you wake up and go to work for a paycheck, but what's the point if I don't actually get to enjoy my time outside of work because the phone's
True.
always ringing, or I'm always on call. And I lived in that space of like, it's not up to me. I can't do these things because my time really isn't my own. I don't know that I
Mhm.
would have used those words back then. I actually don't know what words I was using back then, but that's the gist of it.
Right.
And one day I woke up and I went to work like I did every day. And I looked around and I was like, I don't want this in 30 years.
I love that.
There has to be a different way. Like I
Yes.
need to take control.
Yep.
I still had to go to work butt ass crack of dawn. I still didn't get to choose when I went home every day, but I did get to choose who I hung out with at lunch.
Yep.
I got to choose if I took the long way to get a sample because I wanted to get some more movement in that added
I
maybe
love
30
that.
seconds to my travel path. It's not like I went on a 10-hour adventure
Right.
for getting to my job. I got to choose how I wanted to be when I left work. And those little micro decisions changed everything because then it was like, oh, I don't have to participate in the lunch cooler gossip. And hey,
Yep.
I haven't done that in a while. I feel better. I feel like I have more control. Hey, I don't have to rush to get to the first parking spot. Like I can park at the end of the parking lot
Yep.
and take my time to get myself to transition, which also benefited me when I was leaving work. It gave me that extra length of a parking lot to transition from work into my home life. And then it was like, okay, if I keep saying that I want to be healthy and that I wish I had time to work out, well, if this is the time I have, how do I make that work? And
I
so then
love
I
that.
made a choice to pack my gym bag and go to the gym before I went home, which meant that I also had to make the choice of remembering to pack a snack because I needed to eat something on the way to the
That's
gym.
true too. Yep.
Well, like, I think so many people, and me back then included, underestimate the power of those little micro changes and choices. And then all of a sudden, it evolving into me having full autonomy of
Hmm.
my whole entire schedule. And then, like, if I wanted to work out, I had to wake up earlier or I had to like make adjustments. And so, like, you have 10 minutes in your day that you are in control of.
It's true. And if you don't have it, you make it. So you get up a little earlier, or you take that 5 minutes before bed and you plan out what it is you're going to do the next day. What I went through a similar thing, and it was about 2 years now. It's been about 2 years, but I decided, okay, I can continue to come to this job and I can continue to be miserable or whatever, feel trapped, this trapped feeling, or I can look at every opportunity when a patient would come in. I can see this as a connection. I can look at this in a new light of, we're making a connection. How pleasant, and how can I change this person's life? Because I'm all about motivating and inspiring and, making the world a better place. And yeah, I'm stuck at this job for 10 hours a day. It's a long time I go to this place, but I can make a difference in that 10 hours in every single person that I meet. And so I started doing that. I started to just look at it as an opportunity to change each individual life that I met, instead of like, oh, I'm stuck here and then I'm going to do my work when I leave here, finally work on my mission in life. Instead, I brought my mission to the job, and it has changed the way I look at every single thing. And so for me, doing that small micro, change and shift in the way I looked at it was an opportunity now, instead of like a trapped, stuck, you know, thing that I had to do just to pay the bills. Now I look forward to it. I look forward to who's coming in and whose life I'm going to change. So it's such a beautiful ripple effect when you start to look at it in a little different light, or use your time wisely, no matter who you're connecting with or where you're stuck at, right? You can either choose to be stuck, or you can choose to use it as a opportunity to enhance your life.
Yes. And something I started back then that I still do to this day, every day when I got to work, I would, after our morning meeting, and I knew my assignment, like what lab I was going to be in and
Right.
things like that, I would sit down and I would make a list of my top 3 things that I had to get done, non-negotiable things that were on my to-do list. And
Perfect.
then I would fill in all the other stuff that I was responsible for, or that I was told, or that came up through the day. Hey, Tiffany.
Right.
And I started saying so hold on, I'm getting ahead of myself. So I still do that now. Every
Right.
morning I wake up and say, these are my top 3 not things that have to get done, whether I want them
Perfect.
done or not. Like these are the
Right.
non-negotiable important things. And then I fill them in my calendar appropriately so that they have space. But
Right.
then also especially when I was working for someone else, when new things would pop up and I'd get that phone call like, hey, Tiff, I'd be able to, in a very productive, not in an asshole attitudey, like rah, rah, rah,
Right.
way, but in a like, okay, cool. These are the things that I identified as my top priorities today. Are these still true, or where does this new request fall? And do you know what
Ah,
me doing that did? It gave my boss more autonomy over the things that actually are getting done. And it was actually an upward coaching opportunity
I
for us
love
to be
that.
on the same page and for him to say, oh, wait, you're right. I forgot that was on your plate. This is not as important. Or actually, this gets bumped and we don't care about that anymore. And
I love that.
and had I not started taking control of my time and what I was responsible for, that would have never happened. And I still would have been on the frustration hamster
Yep.
wheel.
Yep. And you wouldn't have been organized, because it helps organize and prioritize. And then it helps everybody who's involved on the team to realize what really is important, and then honor what's important to you, because we all have different tasks in this whole business world. Whether you're working for yourself or working in corporate, it's like you all have a task that needs to be done, you know? So,
Y'all
oh,
have a
that's
job.
beautiful.
Y'all
Yep.
have a job. And we have more control in how we show up to that job than we give ourselves credit for, especially when we're unhappy and
It's
unfulfilled.
true. Very true. Very true.
What are some things like when you think about time management during the day for yourself? You work for a doctor in a chiropractic office. Like, how
Mhm.
do you control, like, what little things do you do throughout the day to
So I work
manage
my
your
personal business in the morning before I go. So I wake up and there's some non-negotiables that I do for myself, such as elimination, brush my teeth, scrape my tongue, do my yoga practice, sit down, write a little bit of journaling. And then now I've started to I structure my day the night before. Is what I try to do, is like what I need to get done for my business. And then I leave the workplace until I get to the workplace. Once I get to the workplace, I do the same thing. I'll write down 3 things that need to be done, that like have to get done that day. Sometimes I do like 4 or 5, but I don't go crazy with it. And then I just cross off each time like I get something done. So that way I'm managing what I'm getting done. And it also enhances that endorphins, like, ooh, one's off, one's off, so it's a good way to keep track of yourself. And then I don't beat myself up if, say, there's something on the list. I try my hardest, like, okay, that's first priority tomorrow. Like, I'm going to come in, and it works out. So if I remind myself, like, oh, it will get done tomorrow, it's on my list, like it's official. And so then I'll make a new list tomorrow, and that'll be at the top of my list. And then I just add 2 more things. And that's with personal and business, working for him as well. And then my own personal business. Then I also, midday through, I do an hour to myself of recharging. So in order to stay organized, I feel like I have to recharge. And to do that, I'll literally like breathe for a moment, literally do breath work and mudras and then mantras. And I'll also put on like some soothing music. So for me, recharging is not talking to a friend during this time. I have to like go internal, because my job is very external with people. And to be 110% for them, I have to recharge. And so if I don't do that, then my time management is screwed. Like I just feel so depleted. I'm not able to get things done. And so that's kind of where what I'm talking about right now in the stage of life that I'm at. I'm not giving myself enough time to recharge. So I feel kind of like winded, which is, life is going to throw that at you. I mean, your kids are going to be sick some weeks. Your parents are going to need you more. Your job's going to need you more. But like, are you going to go to bed earlier, which is what I should have done, which I did last night, thank God. But you know what I'm saying? Or are you going to take extra time, even if it's 5 minutes at lunch, to make sure that you have that time for yourself? Or are you choosing not to, and then eventually it catches up with you, and then all of a sudden you're caged, like we learned at the seminar, right? And then it's poor me, and you're starting the cycle all over. But if once you just real quick, once you identify that, or once I identify that, just remember you can step outside the cage. You can open that door again, and that's where I'm at. You can blossom again. You're like a flower. You can close up and blossom back up. Never forget that. And so that's what I do. I basically schedule the time. If I don't schedule the time, then there's no time. Like I don't have time. That's what I'll say. I don't have time. I mean, we all do it, right? If I don't schedule the time, I don't have time.
And time comes down to knowing. Oh, I gotta make a note real quick because I had like 3 light bulb moments while you were talking, and I don't want to forget them. Okay.
Perfect.
If you're someone who does not have time, the first thing that I would recommend, highly, highly recommend you do, is tonight, instead of scrolling TikTok, I'm not saying never do that. I do that. It's soothing. It's mindless. Like it checks you out for a minute, right? But I really encourage you to write down what's important to you.
Yeah.
Because unless you know what your priorities are, everyone else's fires will be more important than your house.
True. Yes.
And so it's very hard to say no or yes to things if you don't know what your own priorities are, because like I said, everyone else's priorities become your own. And then you're really not being as great and awesome as you think you are, because you're so selfless and you're helping everyone. Actually, you're being really selfish and insecure, because people need you to show up as your best self. Yep. So one, know who you are and what is important to you so you can say yes and no to the right things. 2, I am really big on habit stacking. When I decided that I knew that reading more books would be beneficial to me, whether they were fiction or development, I started doing that while I was doing other things. Like I will listen to books on tape while I'm brushing my teeth, while I'm making lunch, while I walk the dog. When I
driving to work,
I learned so much. I even just learned so much, but like I used to listen to the Harry Potter books on my way to work. Like I engaged my brain in those different ways that brought me joy and happiness while I was doing other things. And it made me feel accomplished. It's like, yes, I got through another chapter today. Hell yes.
And that being said too, though, if you enjoy like dancing and like make sure you put on that lovely music on your drive to like dance in the car, like to give that time, because it doesn't always have to be educational. And that's what I think people forget too. They forget how to let it out or sing, whatever it is that allows you.
Parties all the time. They're scheduled into our day, actually. Yeah.
Oh, I love that you do that. But okay, continue. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
I always interrupt.
Me too. It's why we work well on this podcast, because we're just having a conversation like real humans.
That's
true.
Humans talking. Two humans talking. Here we are.
When you were sharing your story, and I realized I started doing something that I don't do anymore that I need to do again. And that is when I worked in an office and my time was really my own and I was responsible to someone else's agenda. I knew what my to-do list was and what was on my plate. And I always worked on the hardest thing and the thing that was going to take me the most time, that was going to take the most mental energy first, because I learned that my best work is done before 9:30 a.m. That's when my brain is able to like focus on tasks like that. It's not at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. 3 o'clock in the afternoon is when like I need to go socialize with other humans and like
recharge or like
talking through the project, building relationships, or discussing plans. But if I needed to sit at my desk and like knock out a report, it needed to be first thing, because that took the most mental energy. So
I feel that.
What's that for you? Like when you're listening to this, like what are the things that take the most energy for you to get done? And what time of day are you most productive for those types of tasks?
Just pay attention throughout the day. Like you'll know where where your creative mind is through the day. You'll know where you need to be the social butterfly. You'll know where you need to recharge and go inward. You'll know if you start paying attention, and then that's what you need to do, is schedule around that. That's what I do. I mean, you don't have to do anything you don't want to, but that helps with time management and being able to get everything done. That's how I'm able to write a book. That's how we are able to start this podcast. That's how we are able to run our own business and have social hour on social media and do all the reels and the behind the scenes stuff. I mean, it's a lot what we do, and that's how we're able to do it all.
And it's something, and as you were sharing, I wrote that down because that's something I've gotten out of practice of. I don't do my hardest thing first anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then I beat myself up around 3 o'clock when I have to like force myself to get through something. Yep. Like, Tiffany, eat the frog. I don't know if you've read that book. I think it's by Brian Tracy, Eat the Frog.
I haven't,
such a good
but
book.
I will. Okay.
I highly recommend. And because you eat the elephant one bite at a time. Like, so if you do the hardest thing first, then everything after that is so easy.
It's true.
The other thing that popped up when you were talking was I used to get so embarrassing how frustrated I used to get, because I would get like angry when I in my head had planned to work on something during a time frame, and then someone would schedule a meeting, and it would like make me so frustrated because it's like, I need to work on this thing, and that's what I was gonna do it. Like, God damn it, blah 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 blah. Like, yeah. Do you know what the solution to that is?
What? Let's hear it.
Putting it on the damn calendar.
That too. Yes.
So if I wanted to work on a project,
put it on the calendar.
Physically give it a title and put it on my calendar.
I love that. And that's what I'm learning to do right now.
I can't. You can't be mad at someone else for not respecting your time if they didn't know that you were busy.
Correct. That's very true.
That's not their responsibility.
So let's leave it on that, put it on the calendar, get the hardest thing done first, and just know that you're going to chip away at it, and don't beat yourself up if that day you didn't get everything on your list, but don't become lazy and just choose that to become a habit. Right. But just don't beat yourself up. That's just one thing I'll say. But yes, put it on the calendar.
Between getting busy work done and being productive. And when you're productive, even if you only accomplish one thing, you feel like you are in control and that you've moved
mountains. It's true. Very true. Very true. And always go after your goals.
Be sure to subscribe wherever it is that you're listening. Please share this with a friend if you found this helpful, and make sure you include a note like, hey, I was listening to this podcast and I thought you would enjoy it, because like, let them know why you're sharing it. And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.